Are Newcastle back? Maybe they are. They put in a good shift against Brentford, but they've got the Champions League coming up tonight. Tell you what, it's going to be a tasty one. Welcome to the Premier League show. It's The View from the South with myself, Sam.
And me, Tom.
Look, we are a Bournemouth fan channel, but we compete in the Premier League. Plucky little Bournemouth are in the top flight, drawing with teams like Chelsea, Tom. Should we check out the weekend results?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's have a look. And this was what happened this weekend then. I tell you what, some really good results for Bournemouth, I've got to say, actually, with Sheffield United dropping points, Wolves dropping points, and look, Crystal Palace as well. Teams that are expected to be in and around us. It may not transpire that way, but yeah. And then on the Sunday, of course, we had our draw at Chelsea, and then Arsenal did what they had to do. And then last night, of course, we saw that Burnley faced Nottingham Forest, and they got a much-needed point. They really needed that point, didn't they?
Yeah, that's a big point for them. I think Forest is always going to be a tricky place to go. So I think they can kick on from there, Burnley. And Forest's not the end of the world. They've had a decent start.
So, are Newcastle back then? We learned 5 things this weekend, and they might well be. They secured a 1-0 win over Brentford. Maybe it should have been more. Tom might allude to that over the weekend. Howe, it's fair to say, has got the pressure on him in this job like never ever before. I think they got Champions League football, and it's now elevated the dreams and hopes and aspiration and expectation of fans and media alike. So when they have these little blips, he's going to be pressured, but he answered them in the best possible way with a victory against a team that are a decent side and a tough one to play against.
Yeah, well, Brentford haven't lost before that game, so it's a better win than I think people realise. And don't get me wrong, Newcastle weren't all singing, all dancing. They weren't back to their best. But what I will say is, when you've got a team that Eddie's got there and they're so energetic, so high tempo, and they're not like it, you go, yeah, but can they still find a way to win? Because that's been questioned lately. And they did, and I felt they were worthy of the 3 points in the end. They were definitely the better side, even though there wasn't a huge amount in it. I thought they were pretty comfortable. And, going into the big Champions League game, they rotated bits, and it's shown that you can bring Callum Wilson in for Isak and you can still get goals. You're absolutely fine. And they've showed that, some of the subs they made, I thought, actually, they've got a better squad than you realise, and I think they needed that positivity, one for points on the board in the Premier League, but also going into Europe and then going into some big Premier League games, and hopefully that can kickstart the season, because I think people have been a little bit too, look at the fixtures they've had, and everyone's suddenly forgot that they absolutely battered Villa. Everyone's forgot that. I think, we do love Eddie, but I do think he'll be absolutely fine, and that was a bigger win than I think people realise. I think that was big for Newcastle to get back on track.
Do you think they can do something in Europe? Because AC Milan, what a rude awakening it's going to be for them. It's not going to be easy for them.
It's tough, but they had the Milan derby at the weekend and got absolutely pumped by Inter. They're not in a great place, and I think Newcastle will. It remains to be seen. I think their home form will get them through the group. I think that in the Champions League, if you win your 3 home games, you'll probably go through. And I think they'll do that. So if they can go to Milan and then they go to Paris, etc. If they go there and get a point, then I think they'll be in a good place. But I actually think they'll probably go to Milan and win. I think Eddie will have them up for it, and I think then suddenly they ground out a win against Brentford. They've gone to Milan and won. Suddenly everything looks rosy again. That's how quickly it can change.
I'm loving Big Ange instead. Spurs fans managed to be singing Robbie Williams at full time after what was a last gasp show at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. After about 70 minutes it was goalless, but then it was the Blades that took the lead with their Coventry signing Heyman netting and Limbs in the away end there, but 2 late goals. There was 8 minutes of stoppage time with Richarlison popped up, and then Kulusevski netting the winner. You know what? Dare I say it? Were the Blades a bit Spursy?
Yeah, that's kind of.
Sorry, Spurs fans.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, Spurs are trying to get rid of that tag. To be fair, but at that point, that's what you'd say. I mean, don't get me wrong. The whole dynamic of the game was all Tottenham, and you thought this is the biggest mash and grab we've ever seen. But I would have given a lot of credit to Sheffield United for keeping themselves in the game and nicking their chance. But I mean, stoppage time, Richarlison scoring as well. It feels like whatever Ange is doing just works every time. I mean, even Richarlison scoring goals. But yeah, they deserve to win the game, but I think it was the latest ever comeback in Premier League history, because obviously now you're seeing more added time, so you're going to get stats like that. But to be behind in stoppage time and get 2 goals, just dipping into Sheffield United briefly, we've mentioned on the show already that we think Hamer's going to be a big signing, and popping up again. I don't think Sheffield United, yes, it must have stung and really hurt them how late they lost it. I think they're better than I thought they'd be, but Tottenham, Ange ball is flying, mate.
He's saying all the right things as well in the media. When he's having his interviews, he's absolutely superb. And the Spurs fans finally have got someone to relate to.
Yeah, we've definitely said this before, but you go from Conte and Mourinho to Ange Postecoglou, it's just, chalk and cheese. They must be absolutely buzzing, just enjoying what they're seeing and enjoying that when the manager's got a press conference, you think he'll come across well. Whereas the previous 2 managers, they're probably like, oh, he bloody hates us. And he's their manager. So, yeah, and the way they play and the way the fans are behind them again, it's, it feels like a very different Tottenham. It's early days, but they're certainly going to be knocking on the door for top 4. Any more than that, could they? Nah.
No.
Maybe.
Is Dyche done?
Yeah.
Look, I'll level with you. I didn't see the game at the time, and I saw it. I said, oh, you know what? They held Arsenal until the 70th minute or so. Was it Trossard who scored for the Gunners? And you look at it, you think, yeah, actually, they put in a good shift. You saw the game. Stats tell a different story, but also the eye test as well shows that Arsenal battered.
Yes, they did. And Arsenal played very well, and they controlled the whole football match. Don't get me wrong, Everton were always going to play a certain way and try and nick bits, but the reason we kind of said is Dyche done is it just feels so old-fashioned the way they're playing. I mean, they're at home to an Arsenal team that I think it was something like 6 years or something they haven't won at Goodison. Like, they've got a horrific record at Goodison. Why don't just show something? There was no ambition to win that football match, in my opinion, and it must be so hard for the Everton fans to watch that they just don't even have a bit of a go against a team that they've got an unbelievable record against at home. They were so defensive, so pragmatic, chucked on Calvert-Lewin and stuff at the end, but they don't really give them anything to go off. There will be games that they'll be judged on more, but we've seen already that they've struggled in them as well. It does look a little bit worrying for Everton at the moment. Obviously, there's other things up the top that are concerning the fans more so, but it just must be hard to go to games and just... I mean, they must be just so bored. It is so dull. And Arsenal are a good side, don't get me wrong, but they've done this in other games.
Surely Arnau must have been producing his Danju magic, no?
No.
We know he's capable.
Yeah, we know he's capable, and obviously if there's any Everton fans watching, and obviously we had Danjuma for a while, and we loved Danjuma when he was with us, and he is that player that always provides a bit of magic. But I always felt when he went to Everton, I've definitely said this before, that it surprised me because Dyche wants his wide men or his front man to work their socks off. Danjuma's quite luxury-like, and if he's not providing their moments, he's not really doing anything. And at the moment, he's not. I know he's got a few, but he's not finding that end product. So I think he will get some goals for him and have some moments, but he won't be consistent enough for a team that are struggling, in my opinion. And we've had him in a scrap before, and he kind of went a little bit missing. So yeah, remains to be seen. But I'm starting to think. Whereas at the start of the season, I thought if they keep Dyche, they'll have enough. I'm starting to think, is he a little bit outdated and might they be going down with him? I'm not sure. We'll have to wait and see.
The fourth thing we learned this weekend, well, I learned something about myself. The fact that I'm saying the same things about the same sides all season long. One, Man United, they're absolutely woeful. Ten Hag, the pressure is right on him. And Brighton as well. They're just brilliant. They're just brilliant. Brilliant Brighton, but Man
United...
United...
to be their next Premier League fixture? God.
That'll be us then. But Man United were a monstrosity. I was watching a number of channels. I can't remember which channel it was I was watching. Dan Potts' Football's 12th Man podcast. And someone on there said, genuinely, it wouldn't be surprised if Brighton, go 3-0 up at some point. They did.
Yes.
Wow. And they made it look so easy. That goal from... Pascal Gross, who scored their second. There were about 20 or 30 passes where Brighton had possession for about 2 minutes. Easy. Man United just sauntering around. He's got his work cut out. But honestly, there's a mentality crisis at that club. There really is. It's something huge.
Yeah, I'll always say it about Man U that yes, there's obviously real problems with the ownership. But, the players that are on the pitch, they can't do anything about that. Why are they playing so badly? Yeah. Equally, it is too probably lazy to say that, in the sense that if, from top to bottom, if it's not going the way it should be up the top, and you're seeing things happen with Sancho and obviously Anthony and stuff, that feeds into the dressing room. Of course it does. So I do get some of that. But the fact that I look at Brighton and go, they're not even starting Evan Ferguson. They're not even got Enciso out there. And Man United are having to bring on Martial, and you're thinking, Brighton have got a better squad. How have Brighton got a better squad with the money that Man United have spent? It's crazy. I don't know, injuries do matter, and Man United have got big injuries all over the pitch, don't get me wrong, but they don't look right. And I think the most alarming thing for Manchester United should be that they're at home to Brighton, and I add 3-1 on my Super 6. To Brighton. Was that a surprise to you that they won 3?
It's not.
The fact that it's not a surprise says it all, but it also says it all about Brighton. That guy, De Zerbi, the players. I'm looking forward to seeing how they do in Europe. But that is a team that sides like ourselves and other sides aspire to be like. Great to watch. Always make a profit. It's just everything just touches, turns to gold. So worrying times for Manchester United, but Brighton, I mean, they just must be loving it.
They must be. Finally, we've talked about Klopp's mentality monsters. Well, they certainly had that same mindset again, but it was probably inspired by a substitution from the home side that they played, which maybe gave them the impetus to attack. It was Wolves who they were facing. It was at Molineux, and I watched the first half, and I've got to say that for that 45 minutes, Wolves, they dominated, and really, there should be clear daylight between the two sides, but you need to take your chances when you play teams like Liverpool. You do, and you and I were messaging, weren't we, when the game was going on, and they were brilliant first half, Wolves, absolutely brilliant. I thought Neto caused them so many problems. He was, so they had to play Gomez at right back because Trent was out, and I thought he was getting tied in knots by Neto. They were brilliant all over the pitch. And Gary O'Neill can't do anything about his players missing chances. They're missing chances, really poor ones. But I remember messaging you, and you and I were saying the same thing, like, how we've had Gary O'Neill as manager. They're playing brilliantly. In what minute would he put the handbrake on? And it was as soon as they come out of the second half. I mean, don't get me wrong, Liverpool deserve a lot of credit for the changes, and whatever Klopp said to them at half time worked. They looked like a completely different team, and I thought it was evident that McAllister wasn't very good, and he's been out in South America, and they had to have Nunez and Diaz on the bench, both been out. I think that does play a part. Yeah, it does. But what I will say is, Wolves fans, a lot of them on socials were saying, this is what Bournemouth fans were saying. He's, they don't want to criticise him all the time, but unless he changes, the sense that we started a lot of games well under Gary O'Neill, and we're looking quite good, and then for some reason he seems to just want to be too safe, too negative, really. And he done it again. The goal scorer, Howe, he took him off and brought on a fullback, and it was the whole mindset of it. They come out, and all you had to do was look at it, because obviously it was live, I watched the game, and they come out second half, and within about a minute, I thought that defensive line is 20 yards deeper, and it's just a mindset thing, and I feel like, it felt so predictable. It felt so predictable, and obviously the fact that Liverpool have a lot of quality plays a massive part. But I just felt if Wolves had kept playing like they did first half, they would have had more of a chance, and that must be disappointing for Wolves. But having said that, I would say they showed in that first half they might have a bit of quality to get themselves out of trouble now and again. Yeah. I'm already thinking, like when we play them, for example, that there are still a lot of danger men that if they're on it, they can beat you. And they nearly done it against Liverpool, and that's no mean feat. But Liverpool, as much as people are going, a bit of a transition, they haven't lost. They look good. Yeah. I think they look good, and they changed the game really well second half. And I thought it was literally the definition of a game of two halves, that one. Yeah, absolutely was. So there you go. Those are the 5 things that we've learned from this weekend. Back in the Net don't stop with their content. There's content throughout. Make sure you're following us on your socials to see when the next video lands. Tom, Jordan, it's been a pleasure. Pleasure as always, mate. Looking forward to the next one where, Brighton look good, but they've got the big boys coming to town, mate. Good luck to all the English teams in Europe, of course. And we'll see you in the next one. Looking forward to it. Up the cherries. Up the Premier League. Come on!